Welcome to English Grammar 1 Unit 28. Must and can't. We use must and can't for inference. When the inference is positive, we use must, and when the inference is negative, we use can't. Study this example situation. My house is very near the motorway. So we have certain facts or clues where we conclude something out of this fact and clue. So we express inference by using must. So the person here expects something. He says, it must be very noisy. If the person says it is very noisy means this is a fact. But when it is a conclusion by the person based on previous information, so the person uses must plus the base form, and the base form of is becomes be. So to conclude, to make inference or conclusion, the person says it must be very noisy based on the information said by her. You can use must to say that you believe something is certain, to express your belief or to express inference by yourself, to express your own opinion about something based on certain information. You use must plus the base form. You have been traveling all day. If someone has been traveling all day, then what we conclude, what we infer, that he must be tired. So you must be tired. You must be tired. This is a conclusion or a belief by the person. But if you are sure about something, you say you are tired directly. And this is not inference, this is not conclusion. You are sure about that it is a fact, you are tired. So to make it inference, you use must, so it becomes you must, and are goes back into base form, its base form be. So it becomes like this: you must be tired. Traveling is tiring, and you have been traveling all day, so you must be tired. Jim is a hard worker. A person says Jim is a hard worker. So the other person says, Jim, showing surprise, you must be joking. He doesn't do anything. Other person knows that he doesn't do anything. So he says, concludes, or he expresses his belief and says, you must be joking. To express inference or express your belief or opinion, you may use must plus the base form. So he said, Jim, you must be joking. Must plus the base form of are, so it becomes be. So he says, you must be joking. He doesn't do anything. And this is present inference. Now, Carol must get very bored in her job. Full stop. She does the same thing every day. Here is the fact: she does the same thing every day, and here is preceded by the conclusion, by the inference. Carol must get very bored, and here be is changed by get to indicate gradual change, to indicate gradual change. So be is changed by get, so it becomes Carol must get very bored in her job. The fourth example, I am sure Sally gave me her phone number, and I am sure about that. So I conclude, I infer something. I must have it somewhere. I must have the number somewhere. If I say I have it somewhere, I don't make inference here. To make inference, we use must, so it becomes I must, and then we have the base form after it, so it becomes like this: I must have it somewhere. You can use can't to say that you believe something is not possible. You express your inference, but it is a negative inference, to express that you believe something is not possible, you use can't instead of must. So it becomes can't. You don't say mustn't. We don't say here mustn't. We use can't instead of mustn't. So it becomes can't as negative. You have just had lunch, so you can't be hungry already. Here is inference by you and negative inference used by cannot instead of mustn't. We don't say you mustn't be hungry. We say you can't be hungry already. People are not normally hungry just after eating a meal. You have just eaten, so you can't be hungry. Example number 2. They haven't lived here for very long. They haven't lived here for very long. What do we infer from this statement? We infer that they can't know many people. We don't say they mustn't know very people. To make it negative, we use can't instead of mustn't. So it becomes they can't know many people. So for positive inference, we use must plus the base form. For negative inference or conclusion, we use can't plus the base form. So the structure becomes like this: I, you, he is followed by must, and must is followed by the base form. So we say I must be tired, I must be hungry, I must be at work, I must be doing, I must be going, I must be joking, or I must do, I must get, I must know, I must have. Or you must be tired, you must be doing, or you must do. Or he must be tired, he must be doing, he must do. This is the form. For positive inference, we use must plus the base form, present inference. For negative inference, we use can't plus the base form. B. For the past, we use must have plus past participle. As we expressed before, possibility in the past, we use may, might plus have plus past participle, or could plus have plus past participle. Here, to express inference in the past, we use must have plus past participle, and if the inference is negative, we use can't plus have plus past participle. Study this example. There is nobody at home. They must have gone out. Two persons, Martin and Lucy, are standing at the door of their friend's house. They are standing at the door now, and they have rung the doorbell twice, but nobody has answered. Nobody has answered. Lucy says they must have gone out. If we say they are standing now, okay, we are speaking about a present situation, but the inference or the conclusion is about a past situation. If they are at home now, they must answer the phone. But since they did not answer, they must answer the doorbell. But since they did not answer the doorbell, that means they have already left before some time. That means they left in the past. And to make a conclusion in the past, we use must plus have plus past participle. So she concluded that they are not there. They left before in the past. So the conclusion comes like this: they must have gone out. So she said they must have gone out before we come. Before we came. I didn't hear the phone. And here didn't in the past. What was the cause? What was the possibility in the past? What was the inference? What was the inference in the past? The inference was like this: I must have been asleep. If the person is sure, if the person wants to say he's sure he was asleep, he says I was asleep. And to make it as inference, as conclusion, so you say I must have plus the past participle of was, it becomes been. So the person says I must have been asleep to make inference. To conclude, I have lost one of my gloves. The other person says you must have dropped it somewhere before that. You must have dropped it before that. If the person wants to say that he is sure or without making inference, says you dropped it somewhere. And to make it inference in the past, so the person says you must have plus the past participle of dropped. It is dropped, so it becomes you must have dropped it somewhere. Sue hasn't contacted me. Sue hasn't contacted me. And to make inference and negative inference, we use can't. So the person says she can't, and it is in the past, hasn't contacted, about speak about a past situation. So she can't have got my message. Can't have got my message. Here can't is a negative inference. We use can't plus have plus past participle of get is got. So it becomes like this: she can't have got my message. The fourth example: Tom walked into a wall. Walked here indicates past. So to make inference, to make conclusions, the person uses, and negative conclusion, the person says he can't have plus past participle. So it becomes he can't have been looking. If the person wants to say the sentence directly, so it becomes like this: he wasn't looking where he was going. He wasn't looking where he was going. So to make it inference, we use can't, and not is used with can't, with can, so it becomes he can't plus have, he and the past, so it becomes like this: he can't have, and was changed into the past participle been, so it becomes like this: he can't have been looking where he was going. Study the structure. Here is the structure or the form of inference in the past. If it is positive, we use must plus have plus past participle. So it becomes like this: I must have been asleep. I must have been at work, for example. You must have been asleep. You must have been at work. He must have been asleep. He must have been at work. Must plus have plus past participle been. You must have been asleep at work. You must have been doing or looking. You must have gone. You must have got. You must have known. If it is or he must have been, he must have been, he must have gone. Must have plus past participle. If it is a negative inference, then we use can't plus have plus past participle. This is a past inference. So it becomes like this. I can't have been asleep. I can't have been at work. I can't have been doing. I can't have been looking. I can't have gone. I can't have got. I can't have known. You can't have been asleep. You can't have been at work. You can't have been doing. You can't have been looking. And you can't have gone. You can't have got. You can't have known. He can't have been asleep. He can't have been at work. He can't have been doing. He can't have been looking. He can't have been. He can't have gone. He can't have got. He can't have known. In the first two parts, been, because the original verb is am is are, and the past participle of am is are becomes been. And in the third part, we have main verb go, get, know, and the past participle of go becomes gone, and get becomes got, and know becomes known. Examples: you can use couldn't have instead of can't have. You can use couldn't have instead of can't have. For negative inference, we can replace can't by couldn't. We can replace can't by couldn't. So couldn't have, and this is in the past inference only. We say you can use couldn't have plus past participle instead of can't have. Sue can't have got my message. We can replace it by Sue couldn't have got my message. So in the negative inference, we use can't, and the negative inference in the past, we use can't plus have plus past participle, or we can replace can't by couldn't, and it becomes couldn't have plus past participle. So we can say Sue can't have got my message, or we can say Sue couldn't have got my message. The next example: Tom couldn't have been looking where he was going. We can say Tom can't have been looking where he was going, or Tom couldn't have been looking where he was going. So can't or couldn't plus have plus past participle express past inference but negative past inference. So we can use can't have plus past participle or couldn't have plus past participle, any one of them. We can use any one of them. That's all. Thank you.